Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a subscriber. I'm GoDave89, I'm a Go streamer, Go teacher, and Go tournament player. And in this video, I will talk about a tournament I just finished yesterday, last weekend, taking place in Osnabrück, and showcase some highlights and key ideas of my games. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Before I get into game one, let me just quickly mention that this is a 5-round tournament. There's 60 minutes main time and 3 times 30 second Bayomi, and the Komi is 7, so a Jigo is theoretically possible. Also, if you want to see the full games, or at least my scribing, then you can go into the description. I will link OGS links for all of the games I played. Alright, so for this game, I'm white. And it kind of started actually as a mirror go almost in a local sense, because I approached, he ignored, I ignored, he ignored, and when we got this kind of locally screwed mirror situation, so then I took center to also take the enclosure, so it's almost like it's almost mirrored. And the game progressed a little bit. His P18 was a bit less a few weaknesses, and so when he invaded on the top side, he had a weak group and I had a weak group. So this was the first point of contention of the game. Actually, he did miss a very big opportunity several times in this game, which is to take this point away, because this is asking white to handle this cut, and it also makes some eye shape for this group. But because black just defended very passively here, I got to defend here, and I'm already ahead by Komi at this point. If I play this, I'm even ahead by 10 points apparently. I just knew I wanted to protect this cut so I can't get in close too much. But yeah, this result is already really good for me, because these 3 stones are kind of pincered by 2 relatively strong groups. I mean, the corner is very strong, and these stones also. And so I took this point, and this turn meant that after this, my group here is already pretty strong. This group is now relatively strong, but he didn't really destroy much and didn't really gain much. I got the corner here, which this is a really bad exchange for black. And so my job at this point, it's only move 40, but I already knew that this should be good for me. And my point was to make sure that my problems are not getting bigger. So the only weakness right now is this group at this moment. So I attached, and then I attached again. And here, the reasonable thing would be to block, but he cut here, which was nice because I didn't know exactly how to handle it. Like, I knew this was an option, but yeah, so I just cut and Atari and didn't know quite what to do locally, so I played some forcing moves, more or less. And then they decided that connecting here just has to be the correct shape. Like, if you connect here, that just feels really bad, and what else is there to do? Like, I also thought about this maybe, and if black blocks, I can play here, and if he cuts, then I can actually just straight up capture and escape. But yeah, so I ended up playing here and black cut. And now this is the first key point of this game, because I was quite comfortably ahead, but only like by AI perspective. And I was really looking at like this cut, and there's this, but there's also, I have only 2 liberties. And I ended up playing this Hane, hoping, of course, for the block or for something like this, so I can just double Atari here, or Atari my way out and capture these 2 stones. My opponent did not do that. But funny enough, AI just says, just play here, force black to connect, just capture, force black to capture, and then this group is strong as I wanted it to be. And I got center still to maybe just play this and reduce the RG of this cornerstone. So, but yeah, I didn't do that, so I got a little bit in trouble with my stones here. Though fully aware that these stones are maybe now light, that black is strong everywhere. And the game got closer here though, because I did end up playing a few too passive moves, especially this one. I just didn't want there to be any RG here, and then black got to peep and play here. In the end, I mean, it's very slightly better for me still, but I wasn't far ahead. However, at this point now I have these weaknesses here and these weak groups, so now black actually had to play something more forceful to separate. But he just jumped here, I got to fix my cut, he jumped here, I fixed one weakness and then forced him to capture those. And I was already happy with that because now I still counted I'm ahead, and I was. So my next job was to make sure that my group here is absolutely alive, and so I did this by harassing this group. Well, okay, actually first I harassed this group a couple of times and then I played here. And from there on, the defense of black wasn't perfect, so I got a lot of forcing moves for against it. Got to get this forcing move. And here I could have maybe even killed this black group, but I already knew that I was ahead, so I just played this, let black live, and then captured back or saved my stones on this side again. And as to my counting, I was ahead by whatever I can get on the left side, and even gave a little bit away in the rest of the game, but it was more or less inconsequential. So after winning game 1, I got a 2-dan opponent in the second game. I had never played before. This is still a level where I feel relatively confident, but again, you don't want to underestimate anyone. So what was nice though, I got to play pretty much my favorite opening as black, which is to get this setup and then to pincer. And white accepted my invitation to play the AI Joseki here, which usually the next move is, or not usually, but this is one move you can play, or maybe this one. What the 2-dan played in the game was also fine. You maybe are only a little bit shocked by this Tisuchi then. White can't go down because then one of the two cutting stones or cutting groups is captured. So this is slightly better for black, but not by much. However, then after this good exchange, white can counterattack this group. But again, I mean, this is still just by 1 to 2 points only, so nothing really happened yet. Then after some exchanges here, I got to play this move, which was really nice, attacking this group and also raising the right side. And I was prepared for this next move. That's also why I played this, because now I could pincer. Or after one exchange here, I could pincer. And now I felt like this was a really nice flow of stones for me. He jumped, I got to kick and extend. And now the mistake here for white was to jump and just create some life in the corner, because the problem with all of this is that white is not even alive in the corner. This is still a ko. What later happened in the game, you can't even play this now because that would still be dead, like so. And so there's no real problem. The only thing you maybe have to consider is that white can at some point play this, but yeah, it's a risky ko for white mainly at this point because black is relatively strong. So white jumped out and I peeped and then separated here. Now you can see like the flow of my stones. I got to strengthen my group here. I get to split white while staying connected myself. There's still this big weakness here. And in the meantime, I'm also creating some points on the right side. So there was one point in the game though where after like, peeping a few more times here and attacking this group further, white jumped out and I played here. Now white had the chance to play here, and if I play here then this cut might look scary, but there's also some counter attack against these stones and maybe even these stones, so this would have been a little bit annoying, but a little bit lucky for me that white just connected here. Now this is a nice exchange because now I don't necessarily need to care for K13 anymore, and so I extended, and the game at this point is, I don't want to say over, but kind of really good for me in a strategic way because I'm ahead by about what I can get here, and I still have this white group to attack and this white group to attack. So I ended up just playing a nice exchange here and then looked for the separation here, which culminated in that white ignored, which was good, but at this point I just got to take this whole corner here. After some more exchanges, I just got to take the whole corner here, and after that there was a little bit of a story with this group still, but in general I was 10 to 20 points ahead and I gave a lot of points away. Maybe I can show that at the very end here. White did this, and at some point here I let white connect, and then I noticed my group here is maybe not the safest ever after white played here. So I ended up sacrificing the 3 stones on the top side just to make sure that I'm absolutely alive with my group here. And like I said, after that I'm comfortably ahead and there's not much happening after that anymore. So that was win number 2. Now in round 3 I got paired against a Friedan I had played numerous times before in some tournaments as well as in Nordic Go Dojo League. So I was warned because our games were always close, not necessarily in score, but it was always something crazy seemed to happen. Some dragon escaped or died, so yeah. Also, it was round 3. Round 3 is always a little bit special because everyone had just played 2 games, and that's why I wasn't feeling too well at that point. So I was very wary of this game. So I was black. I got my favorite setup again, but this time I decided not to pincer and try something else, which is to attach and play out this Chiseki. And now approaching here might seem a little bit slow, but it's also really big for white to get this move. First of all, because it removes invasion potential here. Not completely, but it reduces it greatly. But it also it weakens the corner a bit. So this move is doing the same. It weakens this white group a little bit and it strengthens the corner. White ignored anyway, and then this attachment is a nice little tricky move. White played this, and now there's some different variations. Like white can play here, and then we get into some kind of co-lock situation like this. Like this is the variation that could follow. But in the game, he attacked great and extended, and here I fought for quite some time because I didn't quite know what to do. And then I chose not a bad, but also not the best option, so I played here. Then Atari, and here he had the chance to create co-fights and then fight the co, but he just connected. So I was quite happy at this point. Though it's an unknown situation for me, so that's always a little bit scary. And I expected white to just make one eye here, pretty much live with this group, and maybe counterattack these stones while treating those light, because black is already relatively strong here with this group and has some backup here. But in the game instead, he decided to save them like this. I destroyed the eye shape and white escaped, but I also escaped. And then white protected these 3 stones, which was a slight mistake, because now, like I mentioned, these stones A are relatively flexible and B are not as important as those. So I actually got to press on this group. Now it would have been better to just extend, but I hung it, and it would have been better for him not to do this move, because that again fixes my weaknesses. But he scared me enough that I didn't dare to extend, which would have been elite for me. Like this, it was pretty much an even game again. I pressed him down a little bit more, then just defended my weakness, and after all was said and done, white is alive with this group, and I'm relatively strong with this group, but there's some weaknesses left, so I decided to, after some exchange here, to protect against the weakness here, and be able to cap. Yeah, that's what I did. And then it was basically this group versus this group, and hoping that I can get enough profit and maybe even some profit in around this area, like at least destroy the left side. So white jumped, and I decided now it's a good time to attach to this stone. It's basically like attached to one weak stone or one relatively strong in this case actually. Just attach there, so I either get some profit on the top side or I can more fiercely attack this group. And white had a good chance here to actually counterplay and play this as a core, but yeah. So He was a little bit passive here, and what ended up happening is that I just created something on the left side like I was aiming for, and then I did surround my group. And you can see with these stones I got here from well, attacking this top group a little bit, and also with the moves, just natural moves here, and strengthening my group here. Now this white group is actually in some trouble. It's not that weak because it has friends, but I also have maybe some forcing moves. In the game, what ended up happening is after one exchange, he now invaded because otherwise he would have just been easily behind. If I got all of this, I was very far ahead. And the game is actually also relatively pretty good for me at this point, especially after white now decided to try to get everything basically. So there's some weaknesses here, but white also has some weaknesses here, and these 4 stones are a little bit weak. So he decided to save them like this, but there was probably better ways for white to just maybe attach here or push here. I'm not sure what's the best, but after this one and white just cutting here, it looks like white got a lot of points here and defended their weak group, but I also got to now counterattack this group again. And in the game, after this exchange, I can actually push and cut here, and at this point I'm about 15 points ahead. And the lead continued to grow because, well, I could surround this just completely in center. And I also got this, which is now center against this. At this point, I was already in some time trouble though. This one is also center, threatening b16. So white has to defend. And now you can see that these stones are not in danger. Theoretically, no, I can't call this, but yeah, he later has to take out these 3 stones, so it's actually not that much profit, and I get to play. I can show you. I defended my weakness here, and white just made some shape here, so now I can play this and just this in center, and he later still has to take out these 3 stones, like I mentioned. Now, at this particular point, there is probably a really good way to harass this group a lot stronger. Like there's this peep here, and maybe I can jump a little bit further, but at this point I already failed. I counted, and I'm quite far ahead, so I didn't go for any big attack that might go wrong, so I just defended here, made some points, and got these exchanges now. A10 is a bit questionable, but okay. So I just got some points, some profit here. I was very happy to just already do this. Maybe at this point I still had this kind of move to really harass this group, but I was happy to just start endgame here, which would have been very fine. Not at all a bad strategy. The only problem is at this particular point, my opponent found this Hane and then this jump. So I was a little bit disappointed there that I completely missed this weakness in my shape. If I had noticed, maybe I don't play this Hane and connect, maybe I even just play some move like this. I don't know. It's a little bit passive, but this would have been a quite sure win. But in the game, I didn't, so white actually got to go in here, and I panicked a little bit. So the game, I think I overestimated the value of this center, so I played this not forcing exchange, because white can actually defend like this. And I ended up going for the corner, but now you can see the big difference is that if white captures this stone, white has an eye, and white doesn't need to take out these 3 stones anymore. And this actually became the story of the rest of the game, because now, after some more exchanges, letting white live there, there's this core, which if white gets one eye, if white just connects, he doesn't have to take the 3 stones. And of course, if I win the core there, then he has to. So this is actually a really big core. And in the game, after I'm not sure about the move order here, but actually what ended up happening is that at this particular point here, at some point, where was it? Oh yeah. So at this particular point, I noticed I just don't have enough core threads for this. So I took here, which was a reverse center, few points. And if white now continues fighting the core, white is actually slightly ahead. but because white connected the cone, now I am a bit ahead. I take this center and I play this move, and I ended up winning this game with 2 points. Very, very close. Also, my opponent thought he was ahead. I wasn't sure who was leading, but I knew it was super, super close. And I just barely, after AI told me I was ahead by 35 at some point, when probably I could have really hard attacked this group, maybe even killed it, who knows. But yeah, I mean, in the end, a win is a win, and I ended the Saturday with a score of 3-0. Now I came back to round 4 the next day, and the tournament results already pretty much suggested who my next opponent might be, and it was, in the end, Elian Sixten. Yeah, so that's a change of pace. I was white in this game, and I didn't quite dare to pincer, to be honest, in this game, because I didn't know how well prepared he is for it. And I also know there's some variations there, especially against the high approach, that I'm not too familiar or comfortable with, so I just decided to Hane here. And he didn't play the, or attach here, he didn't play the Hane, rather, but went for the outside. I think he's an influence player, but yeah. And what ended up happening is that I took the corners and was a bit like I know this move, but I again just went for the let's stay solid first and then look for trouble. But what ended up happening, I got 3 corners, and that is fine. But if the opponent gets a huge moyo, because like my only entry point really is here, it's not the easiest game to play. And so, I mean, I ended up just playing even more here, and then I dove in. And it's completely fine at this point. It's still completely even, but it is quite tricky to reduce all of this. So I ended up playing some exchanges here, and then played another exchange. Here I could have already just, I mean, I could have just played anything here and reduce, but you always have to know how to use this. So instead I counterattacked this stone, and Ilian said, no, I don't care about this. So yeah, at this point, I didn't know how to handle this. I don't know if anyone does, to be honest, but I just ended up invading on the left side, just a little bit meh because it's already undercut, but it also makes this stronger, a little bit risk free, I would say, and it's not bad by any means. Like I think at this point it's still like black +1 or so. But again, it's only black +1 because you have to see that later maybe you have some RG like this which you can make use of, and something like this. And I'm not even sure what is exactly happening here, but you can apparently make use of this. Or even later you can play moves like this and connect up and then play this. So there's a lot of RG here still. But yeah, I decided to just defend the shape here a little bit. And then at this point, again, there's a lot of RG here still, but if you don't know how to use it, it's looking quite good for black. So I just decided to invade or reduce and see what happens. In the game, after a few more forcing moves, black decided to protect these 3 stones. My goal with this move actually was that that I want to peep here, destroy the shape, and attack either of these groups. So it's smart to defend one of those groups. And because I felt behind and I thought I need to make a little bit of a mess, I immediately attached here. And I was looking at stuff like this to just brutally separate black and make something happen with my 2 stones here, my additional stones. Black didn't want to have any to do with that, so he just jumped here, tried to counter separate me. And what ended up happening is that at this point here, actually my move order is a little bit wrong. Black jumped, and I didn't quite know how to make use of this weakness. I didn't want to cut here, that seemed too slow. I also wanted to attach here, not let black get this. So I ended up playing here, here, and here. Cut. And then, yeah, and now I didn't know how to actually exactly handle this, I think. I'm not sure when exactly this was played. But yeah, I ended up playing here, and that's where we go back to the game, my script. So I played here because I didn't quite know how to play this. There's still black can still Atari here. These stones don't seem that weak. So I attached here because now I said, okay, let's make use of this RG here still. And astonishingly enough, at this point, AI still says it's only black by 1, which is super fascinating, but yeah. Black decided then to just surround here and make like this go away. And like I said, I attached earlier, so now this is, I played the follow-up, and at this point, black had a really good chance to just extend here, let white live on the top side. I'm not sure what's the best way, maybe even just this, or maybe once here, but let white live on the top side. There's also still this connection under, and just take the whole middle. And white already has to find some really funky stuff in here, but this is like black is ahead by 5 to 6 points. Instead, he Atari'd and then connected, and I got to possibly break into the middle, which at this point is still completely fine for black, but this is where the decline kind of started for my opponent, because he went very hard on killing my group. Like he didn't want to play anything, I don't know, here, because there was still this relatively easy connection under like that. Either this way or maybe still make some life here. Yeah, actually that's just connected, like you can't cut here. So black didn't want that, so black attacked here. But that now gave me the chance to extend here, make some eye shape, maybe even save these 3 stones. And next move is already the next mistake by black, because reduced his own liberties here to make sure that my shape is not one eye. But it's not really like I would have ever played here, because so far this is still not necessarily one eye, or black can Atari. So actually black should have just Atari'd here. It's still not one eye, and then continued the attack like this. But instead he pushed in, then had to save these 3 stones anyway because he reduced his own liberties, which then gave me Sente to attach and play some forcing moves, play some more forcing moves, next threaten to connect here and get all of these forcing moves. And after this, now my middle group is already pretty much alive, and I'm ahead by about Komi. And maybe still playable, but at this point here, I was actually considering to play here, but this would have been a like greedy and a mistake. So I went for the safe way, because I did count that this if I just survive here, then it's already better for me. I wasn't sure if it's really good for me, but it seemed like it should be better. And after this jump, now if black just isn't super stubborn and plays here, then it's still a relatively close endgame. But it's at this point where black went completely all in, peeped here, and then even peeped here, which is actually a really, really bad exchange, because before that there's still this kind of shape that black can play to create cuts. But after this, not only is this no longer an option, but as you can see in the game, after black tried very desperately to kill me here, I actually have this move in center to capture these 2 stones, and then even this move. And at this point I don't not only have this one eye here, I already have half an eye here, and I possibly even already have half an eye here. So I wasn't 100% sure. I might have even been able to live in center. On the other hand, there's nothing all too big left in this game, and playing here is also relatively big anyway, because reducing this would be amazing. So I played this, and after some center exchanges here, made life on the left side, captured these 2 stones, and at this point I'm ahead by about 15 points, 15 to 20 points. We played this to the end, but there was just nothing left to do in end game, and yeah, I ended up winning my very first game against an active 6-dan actually. So I was 4-0, and there was just one more round to go. So this was it. It's the last round, and the signs are clear. If I win this game, I win the tournament. If I don't, however, because of some big sauce, I wasn't even sure if I would be top 3. Probably, but you know, rather have the fate in my own hand. Now I expected to be paired with Matthias, another 6 then actually, but it ended up that Matthias played against Ilian, and I got to play Yüce Fordan, who is also growing maybe at a similar rate, I would say. And we played a lot of time. We played, I think, 6 times last year. Pretty even result, so I knew this was going to be a tough game. I'm white. Once again, decided to ignore the approach to my 3-4 and just made an enclosure here. And in the game, I got to attack this group a little bit, and white backs just still ignored to do this. So I took the corner in center, and then I played this. Now, of course, my dream scenario is that white just gets to play this, and I get my own area while black's is reduced. I didn't expect that to happen. I would have been glad, of course, but no. The counterattack is coming immediately. This is all just still fine. I counterattacked, black just defended, and I got now still to make use of this stone somewhat with an attachment here. I'm not sure what's the best way here, but I just played it out like this. Now I knew that AI move is this one, but didn't really feel like it. Maybe it didn't. And when I played this, I did expect that black can play here, which is exactly what happened. And we're left in a situation where we both have kind of a weak group, but also really flexible and not that easy to attack, and we both have some areas. So now for black, there's nothing left to do but to maybe either attack one of the group or save his own or Pinzermeister. And so we went into this variation here, where I keep the corner and black makes the group here. I jump out. We just defend our own groups basically, and then this is actually a really powerful move against this group, because if black doesn't react locally, which it didn't, then you can later play here. This is a false eye, and this is also only half an eye. So when compared to black going here, assuming that white can't play this right now, black is already 100% alive with 2 eyes, while in this case here later it can be reduced to half an eye. So this is also helping my own group a little bit and chasing him out. And my plan was to then lean on this. I didn't expect him to push and cut, to be honest. And then I also didn't expect him to cut here. And probably it would have been better to maybe to descend here or to play something like this and push out, or maybe even to not push here in the first place. And my original idea was this, to just push up here a few times and then try to attack this group. But my group here is also getting weaker, and I wasn't too keen on playing this kind of more all-in strat, I guess. So in the end, I got this on the bottom side, but probably still had to play this, because at this point, black ended up getting a lead by getting all of these forcing moves against my shape. And even if I cut here, then it's still relatively even. But at this point, black was ahead by about 4 me. And I was quite glad that black extended so I can continue this fight. And then this move. This was really interesting, because it's true that my group now, if black, for example, were to get to play something like this, it can't quite connect, but I also have to worry about this move being center against this group. That was always on my mind, so AI says I should play immediately. I ended up playing here, and the trick of this whole thing is that it looks like black can just connect, but I can actually play here and continue here, and then it's a ko for the whole corner, but also for this black group. And so actually starting the ko right away is not a good strat for black, and it was relatively even at this point. So we continue fighting this ko. We use a lot of ko threads here and there in a very local area. And what ended up happening is, at this later stage of the game, is that I abandoned the ko for now to make sure that black can't just abandon their group and get all of this in the middle. So I fought on in the middle and ended up with a shape which I think if black Ataris here, I'm in some trouble with this, because like what do? I can't play here, that's just a ladder. And if I do some weird counterplay, then I don't know. This is yeah, there is also a counterattack against this group, but it's getting really complicated and hard to judge. So I was quite happy when black decided to just save his own group. I got to save my own group, and we continue the ko. Or rather, black continues to go the ko, because that's the fun fact. This is a ko, but it's not a ko that black can finish with one move. While it was for white, now it's no longer. But I got some ko threads here, and if black ever connects, it's still a ko, and this group would still be dead. So what ended up happening is that black was still doing quite fine, but then black connected, I got to take again, and then black went for this move. And the problem with this move is that it doesn't even kill my group yet, because I still have this connection in ko under. So I took the ko, black found a really nice Tetsuchi to both kill my group and to threaten to capture these 4 stones back, to save them rather. So this is actually later a really big move, like worth 13.5 points. But the game actually at this point is I'm ahead by Komi. And my big job now is to reduce the center enough. The only problem though in this game was that after that I overvalued the center a little bit. Like this was fine, this was all still fine. And at this point here, I jumped, which was also still fine. And this was also still fine. But then I extended here inside because I didn't want black to get. I'm not sure if this exchange was this exchange wasn't here yet. Sorry, so there was a difference here. If this exchange wasn't here yet, so if I play here, I thought that black can now play here, here, and just keep the whole center, and I couldn't make use of this weakness. But actually, one was just much bigger. So instead, now black got to play, after a few more forcing moves, black got to play one, and the game actually ended up being really close at this point, and some mistakes happened. But in the very end, I even got to attack this top right group a little bit with this, and I also got to play this move. Big mistake here by black was to try to separate me here. I think this move was later, but in general that after I got to block here, I was slightly ahead, and I did end up winning this game and the tournament, but winning this game by 2 points. And thus, with a 5-0, I became the new Ozna. So lastly, here's proof of my victory. Let me know if you like this style of video, or if you maybe prefer to have only a few games showcased but in greater detail. Other than that, thanks for watching and have a good one. Bye bye.